10 master thinking patterns to broaden your mind and vision. Dear beloved listeners, wisdom, in its most universal definition, is the ability to think and act using knowledge, experience, common sense, and deep understanding. An author once said, when it comes to success, physical strength, intelligence, willpower, and education are only secondary. The most important factor, the scale of your thinking. With that being said, your way of thinking determines the direction and depth of your wisdom. When your thinking is off, everything goes wrong, no matter how hard you try. In fact, in these moments, the faster your mind works, the quicker you head toward failure. But when your thinking is clear and sharp, it lights up your life's journey, rapidly guiding you to success with purpose. In life and work, we often find ourselves stuck, facing complex problems and challenges. We blame ourselves for not getting the right answers, for not knowing how to think our way through. But let's face it, the biggest difference between people is often found in how we think. As an old saying goes, stones from another mountain can polish jade. That means we can improve ourselves by learning from others, by drawing on their ideas, experience, and methods to grow stronger and better. No one achieves greatness alone. Our personal strength has its limits, and real success comes when we combine our efforts with the wisdom and support of the world around us. When we know how to tap into these resources and master powerful ways of thinking, we unlock our full potential. That's why today, InnerLight is proud to share with you 10 master thought patterns inspired by the minds of history's greatest thinkers and leaders from east to west, past to present. These are timeless strategies you can learn, apply, and use to create a life of success, clarity, and happiness. So let's dive in. Let these great minds guide you, inspire you, and expand your vision. Are you ready? Let's begin. Number 1, the mindset of the divine. Let's start with what I call the mindset of the divine. In the Bible, there's a powerful commandment: love your neighbor as you love yourself. Think about it. When you care for someone else, you're really caring for yourself too, because what you give always comes back to you. That's the core of divine thinking. Now, here's the beautiful tradition from rural Israel. When it's harvest season and the crops are ripe, farmers leave the corners of their fields untouched. Why? So anyone passing by, rich or poor, can come and take what they need. This practice isn't just about charity. It's about gratitude. Jewish people, after surviving so much hardship, believe that their peaceful lives are blessings from God, and leaving part of the harvest is the way of saying thanks by sharing what they've grown with those in need. It's a simple yet profound act of giving without expecting anything in return. They believe giving is not just kindness, it's happiness. It's a form of moral beauty. And from generations to generations, this mindset of abundance and compassion has been passed down. In fact, this value is embedded in Jewish teachings: love others as yourself, because their ancestors knew suffering, oppression, and slavery. Without generosity of neighbors, strangers, and divine grace, they wouldn't have survived. So to them, giving isn't an option, it's the right thing to do. As one wise Jewish rabbit once said, no one ever became poor by giving. There's an ancient saying, when one thrives, all thrive. When one suffers, all suffer. Or as another proverb puts it, love others as you love yourself. These are timeless lessons in compassion, generosity, and the wisdom of giving. And here's the truth. When you give someone a path to survive, you're also creating a future for yourself. Step back and give others space, and life will open up for you too. If you hold an umbrella for someone else in the rain, someday when the storm hits you, someone will do the same. The love, kindness, and goodness you give, it all comes back in ways you might never expect. Second, the thought patterns of Sima Huang, breaking out of fixed thinking. Next up is a mindset inspired by one of the greatest minds in Chinese history, Sima Huang. He wasn't just a legendary politician during the Northern Song dynasty. He was also an extraordinary historian and scholar. His life's work, Ziji Zhongjing, spanned 294 volumes and remains one of China's most treasured historical records. But there's one story from his childhood that truly captures his way of thinking, and it becomes famous across generations. As a young boy, Sima Huang was playing hide and seek with his friends in the garden. One of the boys jumped into a giant water jar to hide without realizing it was full of water. The child quickly began drowning, screaming for help. The other kids panicked, got frozen. No one knew what to do, but young Sima Huang didn't hesitate. He sprinted into the courtyard, grabbed a huge rock, and smashed the water jar open. The water crushed out, and the little boy was saved. That moment wasn't just about quick thinking. It was about breaking free from the conventional patterns of thought. Most people would have tried to reach inside the jar or call for help, but Sima Huang saw a different path, one that cut straight to the solution. He didn't just break the jar, he shattered fixed habitual thinking. And that's the second master mindset. Don't get trapped by routine thinking. Be willing to challenge assumptions. Let me tell you another sample. A man once borrowed $2,000 from someone named Hassan, and they signed a debt note. But as the due date approached, Hassan realized he'd lost the paper. Panic set in. Without proof, how could he collect the money? A friend gave him surprising advice. Write to the borrower and tell him it's time to repay $2,500 he owes you. Hassan was confused. I'm not even sure I'll get back my $2,000. Why would I demand $2,500? But he followed through. A few days later, the borrower replied, "You're mistaken. I only borrowed $2,000 and I'll pay it back on time." Problem solved. This kind of thinking is called reverse thinking. Turning a problem upside down to find a solution is a tool. When used wisely, it unlocks doors most people don't even see. Even Albert Einstein once said, "No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it." To solve difficult problems, you need to rise above them, break the mold, shift perspectives, and sometimes that means walking away from rules, traditions, or expectations and daring to do something no one else would. People who master this mindset are flexible, adaptable, and courageous. They looked at problems from new angles. They embrace uncertainty, and they're not afraid to disrupt the status quo if it leads to progress. In a fast-changing world, this mindset isn't optional, it's essential. Third, the thought pattern of Sun Tzu, know yourself, know your opponent. Our third master mindset comes from the legendary Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu. The author of a timeless classic, The Art of War, a work so influential that Sun Tzu is often reversed as the saint of strategy. One of his most quoted principles is, know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll win 100 battles without danger. This isn't just a military lesson, it's a life philosophy. Let me show you how this idea changed history. Back in the era of the Three Kingdoms, there was a pivotal battle known as the Battle of Guanyu. Was a decisive battle of the war between Cao Cao and Yuan Shao, fought in the late 200 AD. At the time, Yuan Shao was a clear favorite. His family had served a Han dynasty for 3 generations, giving him influence, prestige, and overwhelming power. Historical records estimate Yuan Shao commanded an army of 110,000 soldiers, almost 3 times the size of Cao Cao's 40,000 troops. By all appearances, this was a guaranteed win for Yuan Shao. But Cao Cao didn't just rely on the brute force. He relied on the strategy and wisdom. He worked closely with the brilliant advisors like Guojiang, Shongyu, and Chanyu. Thanks to their deep understanding of their enemies' weaknesses and their own strengths, they pulled off a stunning, most miraculous victory. Yuan Shao's forces were crushed, and that win opened the door for Cao Cao to unify the Central Plains and lay the foundation for the Cao Wei dynasty. One of the most critical contributions to that victory came from Yuan Shao's famous strategist document, The 10 Reasons for Victory and Defeat. This masterpiece analyzed Yuan Shao's flaws and predicted how the battle would unfold. It was the ultimate application of Chuan Tzu's principle, know your enemy, know yourself. But here's what's truly amazing. Sun Tzu's thinking isn't just for generals. His strategies are now studied in politics, economics, finance, psychology, sports, and especially in business. You've heard the saying, the marketplace is a battlefield. And it's true. If you want to avoid failure, outlast your competitors, and come out on top, you need to understand both yourself and your rivals, inside and out. As one ancient Greek philosopher once said, a wise man learns more from his enemies than a fool learns from his friends. Your competitors aren't just obstacles, they're mirrors. They show you who you really are. They challenge you to level up. And if you're paying attention, they can help you grow faster than almost anything else. So remember, this third mindset, be aware, be strategist, and study both sides of the game. That's how you win, not just in war, but in life. Fourth, the thought pattern of Napoleon, nothing is impossible. Let's talk about the fourth powerful way of thinking, the mindset of Napoleon Bonaparte, the great French emperor and military genius. He once said, "The word impossible doesn't exist in my dictionary." That quote wasn't just bravado, it was a reflection of his willpower and unstoppable determination, like the time he led 60,000 French troops across the Alps, one of the most dangerous and towering mountain ranges in Europe, during the military campaign. Before the crossing, his scouts returned with the grim report, "The Alps are impassable." Napoleon didn't flinch. He famously replied, I don't want to hear another word, marched to Italy. Despite brutal turns, harsh weather, and enormous odds, Napoleon pushed forward. He led his army across the Alps and into northern Italy, proving that with the right mindset, even the impossible becomes possible. And he didn't just lead by example, he fooled the spirits of his men with his timeless quote, "If you are determined to win, you never say something is impossible." Now, let's bring that spirit into modern day story, one that happened during America's Great Depression. There was a young artist named Lansky living in Detroit. Times were incredibly hard. His family were surviving off public aid, and they were barely getting by. But Lansky had talent. He was a master of graphic portrait art. The only problem, no one was buying art. Not from a struggling, unknown artist. Not in the middle of an economic crisis. But instead of giving up, Lansky started thinking differently. He knew his friends and neighbors couldn't afford his work. His only hope was to reach someone with means, something influential. But how? Then came the idea. Lansky went to a newspaper archive and found a calendar that featured a portrait of a local bank president. He brought the image home and got to work, painstakingly painting, drawing, and striking new portrait of a man. When it's finished, he framed it. The art was stunning. But now came the hard part. How could he get into the hands of this powerful executive? He had no connections, no referrals. He couldn't talk himself out of it right there. But instead, he got dressed in his best clothes, brushed his hair, and walked into the bank office like he belonged there. The secretary stopped him at the door. "Do you have an appointment?" Lansky simply unwrapped the portrait and said, "I just want him to see this." She paused, looked at the artwork and impressed, took it inside. Moments later, she returned. "The president would like to meet you." Lansky walked in to find the bank president admiring the portrait. "This is incredible," the man said. "How much do you want for this?" Lansky answered, $50. And just like that, the deal was made. But the money wasn't even the biggest win. That moment opened a door. It validated his talent. It gave him confidence. It showed him and others that even the hardest of times, creativity and courage can create opportunity. This is the Napoleon mindset in action. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from the boldest moves. While others see impossible, you have to be the one who sees let's try. And even if you fail, it's better than never daring at all. So if you want to succeed in your career, your dreams, or your life, you must first conquer the voice in your head that says you can't. Build unshakable confidence. Step beyond fear. Push past rejection. Because the truth is, nothing is impossible. Success often lies on the other side of what others refuse to even attempt. Number 5. The thought patterns of Columbus. Dare to do what others haven't. Let's move on to the 5th powerful way of thinking, the mindset of Christopher Columbus. After Columbus discovered the Americas, many people dismissed it as luck. Some even said, well, Americas was right there. If we had gone, we would have found it too. At a dinner party, one nobleman challenged Columbus directly. "Sir, anyone could have done what you did. It was just a chance that you got there first." Columbus didn't argue. Instead, he quietly picked up a hard-boiled egg, placed it on the table, and asked, "Can anyone here make this egg stand upright?" One by one, The guests tried and failed. They handed the egg back, saying, "It's impossible." Then Columbus gently tapped the egg, cracking the bottom just enough so it had a flat base, and it stood perfectly upright. The room gasped and quickly shrugged. "Well, if that's how you do it, anyone can do it." And Columbus smiled. "Exactly. Once someone shows the way, it seems simple. But tell me, who did it before me?" That right there is the essence of Columbus-style thinking. It's easy to think something is simple after it has been done. But being the first to do it, that takes boldness, creativity, the courage to act when no one else will. This is the thinking of pioneers. This is the compass that points us towards new knowledge, deeper discovery, and personal growth. Columbus wasn't held back by conventional beliefs or outdated traditions. He believed in his vision. He turned thought into action and action into history. This is what true innovation looks like. Not just dreaming, but daring. Not just imagining, but doing. We should all adopt the spirit of Columbus to challenge limits, to take risks, and to step boldly into the unknown. Only by doing that can we survive, thrive, and win in the world that never stops changing. Columbus once said, "You can never cross the ocean unless you have courage to lose sight of the shore." You'll never know how wide the sea is until you step onto the boat. You'll never know how deep it is until you sail. Everything begins with a single brave decision to believe there's more and to go after it. So ask yourself, are you ready to be the one who cracks the egg? Number 6, the Fermi thought pattern. Break it down to win big. Next up is the 6th powerful mindset, the way of thinking, inspired by Enrico Fermi. Fermi was an Italian theoretical and experimental physicist, best known for creating the world's first human-built nuclear reactor, Chicago Pile 1. He was a pioneer in quantum mechanics, nuclear physics, particle physics, and statistical mechanics. Among his peers, he was so precise in his predictions that they nicknamed him the Pope, because he was never wrong, not even about his time of his own death. One of Fermi's most brilliant mental frameworks was his method of tackling complex problems. The goal is too big. Break it down into smaller, achievable targets. Focus on hitting each small milestones. Eventually, the big goal becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Let me tell you a true story that perfectly reflects his mindset. In the 1984 Tokyo International Marathon, a little-known runner named Yamada Mochi shocked the world. He beat all the top contenders and took home the gold medal. People called it luck. But 2 years later, Yamada won again, this time at the marathon in mid-Italy. Clearly, it wasn't luck, it was strategy. When asked about this secret, Yamada shared it. Before every race, I study the course carefully. I take notes of every unique tree, building, or signpost along the way. I break the entire race into segments. For example, my first target might be the bank, the second a tall tree, and the third a red house. I run it stretched like it's a 100-meter sprint, one goal at a time. That's how he completed marathon after marathon without burning out. He didn't fixate on the full 26 miles. He focused on the next 200 feet, one small win at a time. This is Fermi's genius in action. It's about micro goals that leads to a macro success. As the great Russian writer Leon Tolstoy once said, man needs a goal for his life, for each phase of life, for each year, each month, each week, each day, each hour, each minute. And you must sacrifice the smaller goals for the bigger ones. So don't let the distance of your dream overwhelm you. Don't let big goals make you feel small. Instead, break the mountain into manageable steps. Chase the first tree, then the red house, then the next one. Don't complain that your days are full of small, ordinary tasks. Success is built from those moments. Great people don't just dream big. They master the art of small victories. They zoom out to see the big picture. But they start where they are and they keep moving forward, one focused step at a time. Success doesn't come in a day. It comes from what you do with every single one. 7. The outcome thought pattern. Cut through the noise. Get to the truth. Next up is the number 7. The outcome way of thinking, based on the principle known as Occam's razor, introduced by English philosopher and monk William of Ockham. This powerful idea can be summed up like this: do not multiply entities beyond necessity. In other words, keep it simple. Eliminate the unnecessary. Go straight to the core. Occam's razor teaches us to avoid overcomplicating things, especially when you're choosing between multiple explanations for the same problem. When two or more theories try to explain the same event, the simplest one, the one that's easier to test, is often the right one. Let me tell you a story that brings this thinking alive. Once upon a time, John Dewey, the famous American educator, was just a young elementary school student. One hot summer, his classroom was swarming with mosquitoes. The teacher tried everything: bug spray, bed nets, swat insections, you name it. But mosquitoes just wouldn't go away. Everyone focused on the mosquitoes except Dewey. Quietly, he grabbed a sickle and started clearing the weeds behind the classroom. Soon after, the mosquitoes vanished. Why? Because the weeds were the real problem, a perfect breeding ground for the bugs. While everyone else fought the symptoms, Dewey eliminated the source. That's the Occam mindset in action. Don't get distracted by noise. Find the root and deal with it directly. German philosopher Schopenhauer once said, "The wise man is not deceived by surface appearances. He sees through them and even anticipates how things will change. And that's the key. See through the illusion. Focus on essence." Occam's razor isn't just a scientific tool, it's a life philosophy. Thought patterns aren't just confined to certain areas of life. They're powerful tools that shaped how we see and interact with the world. One of the most valuable of these patterns is called Occam razor. In its core, Occam's razor is all about clarity. It's a mindset that encourages us to strip away the unnecessary, to look past the noise, and to focus on the essence of the problem. The principle tells us, don't overcomplicate things. Go with the simplest solution that still gets the job done. But don't oversimplify the point where you lose what really matters. This kind of thinking is used everywhere today, in science, business, even daily life, because it helps us make better decisions. And it's not just theory, it's the way of life. The legendary Albert Einstein once said, "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler." That's the heart of Occam's razor. It teaches us to think clearly, to stay grounded and not to be fooled by appearances. When you're applying this thinking to your life, whether you're solving a problem at work or facing a tough decision, it helps you stay calm, cut through confusions, and act with purpose. It's how you move forward with confidence and build a better future. So today, as we explore 10 master thought patterns and the lives of 10 great historical figures, keep Occam's razors in mind. It's one of the most powerful tools you can use to unlock your vision and success. 8. The Florence mindset. Clear goals, clear victories. Now, let's dive into the 8th master thought pattern, the Florence way of thinking, where clarity of purpose becomes your greatest power. Think of a lighthouse. Its beam is only useful if it's strong and focused. The same goes for your goals. If your goals aren't clear, then no matter how hard you work, you're just wandering in the dark. It's like an archer taking aim. If you can't see clearly the bullseye, then it doesn't matter how strong your bow or how perfect your stance may be. You'll miss it every time. Clear goals do more than give you direction. They help you avoid detours, make better decisions, and stay accountable. They keep your motivation burning, especially when you climb gets steep. Let me give you a story. A group of students from a business school went on a mountain hike together. Before they began, their teacher made a challenge more meaningful. He secretly planted a red flag somewhere on the mountain and told the students, "There's a red flag hidden somewhere up there. Whoever finds first wins." The students were excited. They started hiking and searching, but after a while, fatigue set in. With no direction, they grew tired, discouraged, and began to sit around on the rocks. That's when the teacher blew his whistle and gathered them. This time, he said something different. "Now, I've placed the flag on the top of the next mountain. There are 3 paths that lead there. Split into 3 teams. Each group picks the path. The team that reaches the summit first and claims the flag wins. Each group quickly picked a leader. Each leader chose the trail. And with renewed focus, the teams started climbing. What happened next? All 3 teams made it up to the top, each one seeing the red flag as they approached the peak. And this time, no one gave up. No one complained about being tired. Every single person pushed themselves harder than before. Why? Because now they knew exactly where they were headed. At the end of the day, the teacher said something profound. That red flag on the mountaintop, that's the goal of your life. Every action must be guided by a clear target. If you run without direction, you may run far, but you'll never get anywhere meaningful. The message is powerful. Success belongs to those who have crystal clear goals. So when you start your journey, be it in business, personal growth, or any life mission, set your aim first. Then lock your eyes on the summit. That's how you stay energized, make smart choices, and reach your peak. And always remember, a well-defined goal is the compass that turns effort into achievement. 9. The burden effect. Decide or lose everything. Let's move on to the 9th master thought pattern, the burden effect, a powerful reminder of what happens when you can't make up your mind. Back in the 14th century, the French philosopher Jean Broaden told a famous fable while discussing ideas with fellow scholars. It goes like this. A donkey, both starving and thirsty, stands exactly halfway between the stack of hay and the bucket of water. Both options are equally tempting. But instead of choosing one, the donkey keeps looking back and forth, unable to decide. In the end, it dies of hunger and thirst, simply because it couldn't choose. From the story, the phrase Broaden's donkey was born. Today, it's used to describe people who can't make decisions, those who hesitate too long and lose their chance entirely. Decision makers, whether in government, war, or business, must learn to avoid burden effect. They must act decisively, seize opportunities with confidence, and never waste time in hesitation. If you can recognize the moment and commit to a path, pouring your energy and focus into it, you'll always be ahead of most. Even if your choice isn't perfect, decisive action beats endless doubt. Because fortune doesn't wait for the unsure, it rewards the bold. Let's look at history. During the Han-Chu conflict, the brilliant strategist Han Xin failed to follow advice to divide the empire into three. His hesitation led him to his downfall, executed by Liu Ban, the very man he helped to rise to power. In the Three Kingdoms era, Yuan Shao ignored his advisor, Xian Feng, missing the golden opportunity to attack Su Chan while Cao Cao was away. That moment of hesitation cost him the decisive battle of Guanzhou and ultimately everything. Military strategists often say, in war, hesitation is fatal. But this doesn't just apply to battle. In business, indecisiveness can be just as deadly. Opportunities come and go in a flash, and they never wait around. If you hesitate too long in making decisions, you'll be left behind every single time. That's why decisiveness is the core trait of successful entrepreneurs. As a philosopher, Mencius once said, "You can't have both fish and the bear's paw." In other words, you can't have it all. You have to choose. In life, especially in leadership, you must act boldly. You must make choices and stick with them. Don't let short-term gains blind you. Don't get greedy trying to have everything. When you've chosen your path, walk it with courage and conviction, clarity, decisiveness, action. These are the cornerstones of greatness. So next time opportunity knocks, don't wait. Don't hesitate. Choose, move, win. 10. The Toledo mindset. Embracing opposites. Leading with wisdom. And finally, we come to the last master thought pattern, the Toledo mindset. French psychologist Toledo once said, "If you want to know the true intelligence of the person, observe whether they can hold two opposing thoughts at the same time without letting it disrupt their actions in daily life." Think about that. The ability to hold opposing ideas without being paralyzed by them is a mark of intellectual strength. It means you're able to listen to multiple viewpoints, evaluate conflicting opinions, and still move forward with clarity. You see, thoughts may clash, but success comes from balance. We need to listen from all sides, collect perspective, and use that to sharpen our decision-making and leadership. There's an old saying, listen to many voices and you'll see clearly. Trust only one, you'll live in darkness. During the Tang Dynasty, Emperor Taizong once asked his loyal minister Wei Zhen, "Why is that some emperors are wise and others end up foolish?" Wei Zhen replied, "The wise ones listen to many voices, and the foolish ones listen to only one." He went on to explain how emperors who invited feedback from their subordinates should rule effectively. When information flows from the bottom up, truth becomes hard to hide, even for the closest to power. Emperor Taizong nodded in agreement, deeply moved by the truth in Wei Zhen's words. In society, we live among others. Everything we say and do is seen, heard, and remembered by those around us. There are no secrets behind solid walls. That's why great leaders must go among the people and listen to their voices. Taking signs blindly helps no one. If a leader is authoritarian and truth tellers are silenced and exiled, then who will dare to speak the truth? Great managers and leaders need to stay open-minded, accept different views, and foster the democratic, respectful culture where people feel safe to speak honestly. Of course, this doesn't mean accepting everything as face value. We must still discern wisely, separating what is true form, what is baseless, what is constructive from what is slander. Not all criticism is rooted in honesty. But when you lead with humility, genuine care, and the spirit of fairness, you will win people's trust and their hearts. Dear beloved listeners of InnerLight, we've just explored 10 powerful thought patterns from some of the greatest minds in history. Military strategists, psychologists, entrepreneurs, and explorers from all over the world. By reflecting on their ways of thinking, we can unlock our own clarity, resilience, and success, not just in work, but in life. That brings today's journeys to an end. Thank you so much for giving me your precious time and attention. I truly hope this message brings value and inspiration to your life. Please consider liking and sharing these videos to uplift and motivate others. Also, by subscribing to our channel, we can continue this journey of growth, share life lessons, and spread goodness to the community all together. With gratitude and respect, I wish you and your loved ones happiness, success, and peace as always. We look forward to seeing you again in our next videos.